Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TMRP, the Metropolis Radio Podcast. And this week, I'm actually going to be doing a follow-up to my episode where I covered the whole Gina Carano situation with her getting fired, because there have been some things that have unfolded with regards to the Walt Disney Corporation, and we're going to go into all of that, and we are going to go over all of that today, starting with this article from Bounding Into Comics titled 2 days after CEO Bob Chapek touted his optimism about the company, Disney announces closure of 60 stores. And before anybody asks, yes, this has been confirmed in a CNBC article. I could go through all of this if I really wanted to, but the Bounding Into Comics article does actually have screenshots of their quarterly reports that I do want to show you guys. But other than that, let's get into this Bounding Into Comics article. So this came out on March 4th, so this was almost a week ago. And the reason I held off in making this episode of TMRP, you'll see in a few minutes. But going into here, 2 days after CEO Bob Chapek touted his optimism about the company's future, the Walt Disney Company announced they are shutting down at least 60 Disney stores throughout North America. Disney CEO Bob Chapek appeared at the Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecommunications Conference, where he participated in a question and answer session, Q&A session. In that session, Chapek was asked, quote, "When you step back and sort of think about where the company is today compared to when you took the job a year ago, how would you size it up for us when you look at it from here?" The CEO responded, "Well, overall, I think I'd say despite the significant challenges that have been laid in our path over the last year, we feel as optimistic now as ever about the future course of the company." Yeah, I would say that paying over, what was it, $72 billion for all of Fox's assets probably did not really help you, given what happened the very next year. Now, to be fair, I do remember making the claim, and this was before I had the channel, is that, you know, Disney is going to feel a financial sting in just a few short years from the acquisition of Fox, because I think everybody can agree that they insanely overpaid. Well, COVID only exacerbated that problem. Not exacerbated. They sped up the inevitable. Instead of, 2024, 2025 when they'll feel the financial sting, they felt it rather quickly. But getting back to this, we had three priorities when it was apparent what was COVID and what it was going to do our company and our outlook. And the first one was to stabilize the company. Okay. And our CFO, Christine McCarthy, did a tremendous job of ensuring that we had the liquidity necessary for the long haul. If it ended up being the long haul, certainly she had the foresight to recognize that, yes, it was going to be a long haul, he continued. If I'm not mistaken, they were running into a lot of money problems during 2020. I think they had to, I think they had to borrow like a shit ton of loans. They maxed out their credit just to keep the lights on, if I remember. So yeah, maybe paying $72 billion for the Fox acquisition really didn't help you out. And I'm gonna keep hammering this point home, no matter how much it ends up bugging the shit out of you guys. But seriously, $72 billion for Fox assets, and they aren't doing jack fucking shit with them. I think the biggest thing that they did at that Disney Investor Day was announce that, hey guys, we're making an Alien series. And that's really, really about it. Nothing new on Predator. I'm surprised they didn't announce a reboot of Home Alone. Shit, what else did Fox Corp own? Die Hard was another one. I'm honestly surprised that they are not rebooting Die Hard. But continuing on, Chapek then stated, quote, but the other two things are important from the business standpoint, and the first one is obviously that already established pivot to direct to consumer, and so we had to essentially make a decision. Are we going to stay the course, or are we going to slow down? Because obviously an investment would be sort of an important thing when you're trying to reserve cash and be careful. End quote. And there are a lot of goddamn typos. Who the fuck was the editor on this? You know, because you've got a typo right here, and if you go up here, it's like incomplete sentences and what it was going to do our company and our outlook. Don't you mean what it's going to do to our company and our outlook? You know, I have to wonder, okay, one typo in the article is fine, but this right here is kind of an incomplete sentence. You know, who the fuck is your editor? But anyway, he then detailed, quote, but as you know, we stepped on the throttle pretty heavily and accelerated, figuring that this was the time to make a giant leap forward, if you will. And we did that in two ways. Oh God, this is like the corporate speak. And we're gonna do that in two ways. The first way is to prioritize your happiness. And how we're gonna prioritize that happiness is we're gonna cut back on our quality, make shittier products, and charge you more for it. Because your smile is just as important as anything. And the next thing that we did was we overstressed the employees, where secretly they're telling you to, you know, quote unquote, have a Disney day, which is secret code for fuck off. But getting back to it, where was, oh yeah. And we did that in two ways. Number one, we increased our investment dramatically in content, and you saw the fruits of that labor at the investor conference a few months ago. Just because you made a few announcements doesn't mean that you fully invested the money into it. Because, again, just because you announce something doesn't mean that it, you know, comes to fruition. But then we also reorganized the company to facilitate really a complete alignment of all our interests toward our strategic imperative of direct-to-consumer. And yes, this was reported on a few months ago. I think it was right when I first started TMRP. I think I already covered it. I don't remember. And then here we go. A day after Chapek's statement, the Walt Disney Company announced that they would be closing 20% of its brick-and-mortar Disney store locations by the end of the year. CNBC's Sarah Wynn reports, quote, at least 60 of its North American locations will be closed. And that's an at least. There could be more. You know, if you notice that. You know, at least doesn't mean that they're just going to stop at 60. And I don't think that they go into it in here. If they don't, let me scroll down. I know it's... Okay, here we go. This was in the CNBC article. There are about 300 Disney stores worldwide. So if you do about... So if they're closing about 60 of them, that's 20% of their locations. But granted, that's only here in the States. That's not... They said 300 stores worldwide. Disney's president of Consumer Products, Games, and Publishing, Stephanie Young, attempted to explain the shuttering of our stores. Quote, while consumer behavior has shifted toward online shopping, the global pandemic has changed what consumers expect from a retailer. End quote. I think it has a lot more than just, you know, COVID. I think they're using that as a pretty convenient excuse because this little event over here happened back on February 10th. That's about a month ago. If anybody remembers, you know, this little thing, don't know if anyone has ever touched on it, but seemed to be pretty big. Would be kind of dumb for no one to really talk about this. But anyway, I'm not saying that there's a connection. I'm not saying there's a connection between two events. I'm just saying that the timing is awfully damn conspicuous. The Wall Street Journal's R.T. Watson reports, quote, Disney said over the next year it would aim to improve its e-commerce platform and more fully integrate its online shopping experience with its Disney Parks mobile apps and social media, end quote. If it's been anything like GameStop's, you know, move to the e-commerce platform, it's going to go over like a goddamn lead balloon. You know, don't try to ever order anything off of GameStop.com because it's guaranteed it will never show up, and they are gonna and they are just gonna fuck around with you for the next few months. actually happened to me recently. I ordered, I think it was New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch on Black Friday. January rolled around, no shipment. The warehouse lost it. They then fucked around with me, never sent me a replacement for it. And I've put in about 3 complaints and have been ignored multiple times. At this point, I don't fucking care. But, so basically, whenever a company says, we're going to move to e-commerce, it basically, for most companies now, it's just an excuse to fuck you over and basically just ignore every single legitimate complaint that you have. You know, they're going to use technology as the excuse to basically not address anything. And Watson added, quote, the company also said it plans to broaden its merchandise line with more emphasis on products that might appeal to adults, including apparel, streetwear, home products, and collectibles, end quote. Yeah, I have not been inside of a Disney store in years, but didn't they already, like, have, like, this, like, didn't they already have collectibles? So that really doesn't make any sense there. In Disney's latest earnings report, they revealed the company's revenue shrank over 22% from the previous quarter a year ago. Revenue at the quarter ending January 2nd, 2021 came in at $16.249 billion. In contrast, revenue for the quarter ending in December 28th, 2019 was $20.877 billion. And here's where the Bounding in the Comics article is showing this from their quarterly report. So here's their revenues. From January 2nd, 2021, it was $16.249. And then December 20th, 2019, you know, it's at $20.877. Now, this is overall revenues. But you are seeing that, you know, it is on a downward trend. Now, every company goes through downward trends, to be fair. And then most of the decline came from their Disney Parks Experiences and Products Group. Of course it would. Even still, the Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution also saw a 5% decline in revenue. So here you have December 20, 2019, you had $13.297 billion. And that's what these numbers are in billions, in case if you guys don't know. So January 2nd, 2021, this is, about a year after Disney Plus, and it's actually on the decline. It's actually not on the upswing. So, you know, and I mean, to be fair, you know, it's going to take a while before Disney Plus becomes profitable, but pissing a lot of people off probably did not really help them. So why I wanted to wait to make this is because of a couple of things. The first thing here, coming from the Daily Wire. Now, again, take this source with a grain of salt. I'm not the biggest fan of Ben Shapiro, but I think that this point like really hits home as to why this is the bad rash that will not go away. You know, exclusive poll, majority of Americans less likely to support Disney over woke politics, firing of Gina Carano. Now, okay, I have to make this clear. This is the spin right here. Majority of Americans. Mark Twain once said there's 3 types of lies. Lies, damned lies, and statistics. So you can take a poll. Now, they don't go into exactly how many people were surveyed, but they can spin it any way they want to be in their favor. So do take this with a grain of salt, but I think that this does highlight, you know, why this simply will not go away. And not with here, but let's just go down here. When first asked, Americans were found to oppose Disney's decision to fire Carano by 58% to 42%, including a majority of Americans across all age groups, gender, and ethnicity. Majorities of Republican and Independent similarly opposed the firing, as well as 40% of Democrats. So even some lefties disagreed with the decision. Honing on Carano, the polling data found that more than 70% of Americans, again, we don't know how many people were surveyed for this, so be very, very careful, believe that the actress should not have been fired after assessing the social media post for themselves. After reviewing the post, 28% said Disney was right to fire Gina Carano, 39% said it may have been poorly worded, but she did not deserve to get fired, and 34% say they found nothing wrong with the quote and that Carano should not have been fired. But again, notice 28% said that they were in the right to fire Carano. And what was it? 70% had opposed it. And this is the point. And this is the point I want to highlight right here is that, you know, how this ties back into Gina Carano being fired. It has now been since when? Let me look at here again. It was announced on, yeah, here it is, February 10th, 2021. Yet people are still bringing this up. This is the bad rash that won't go away for them. And if we head down here into the poll, after viewing the post, a majority of every single group tested, including Democrats, liberals, and 70% of Disney fans, said that Carano should not have been fired. Public opinion strategists found. Notably, 61% of those with a less favorable impression of Disney identified the firing of Carano and other quote-unquote cancel culture actions the company has taken recently. Some of the comments from the participants included the following. Disney defended using sets near the slave camps in China. Them firing people for having different views than the boss has. They are yielding to woke cultural activism. They are developing, again, keep in mind as to where the source comes from, but yes, they actually did defend using sets near the quote-unquote happy camps over in China. But yeah, this is a good point, and let's read it again. Notably, 61% of those with a less favorable impression of Disney identified the firing of Carano and other cancel culture actions the company has taken recently. This is a very good point that a lot of these, cancel culture moves have been coming from Disney. They basically, retired the character of Apu from The Simpsons. Who was the original voice of Dr. Hibbert? I'm gonna look that up real quick. Dr. Hibbert, original voice, because I know he was recently ousted. Yeah, Harry Shearer. Yeah, that's it right here. Let's see if we can pull it up. Yes, Harry Shearer will no longer voice the black character Dr. Hibbert on The Simpsons. Trying to find. I'll show you guys who Harry Shearer is. Harry Shearer. Under images. This is Harry Shearer. Right here. The original voice of Dr. Hibbert has now been forced out. And I'm honestly surprised that Dr. Hibbert is not out of the show completely, because from what I remember, wasn't Dr. Hibbert a based on Bill Cosby from Dr. Huxtable from the Cosby Show, and all the shit that went down with him, whether or not you find it credible or not, I'm surprised that they didn't go that far. I remember they also fired Mike Henry from Family Guy, the voice of Cleveland Brown since 1999. Had his own spin-off show for a few years called The Cleveland Show. He's now been ousted, and yeah, I didn't know if you guys knew it, but Mike Henry wasn't a black guy voicing a black character. Now I don't care if you support the move or not, but all of these public firings going from, Roseanne Barr, another one, James Gunn being another one. I just said Harry Shearer, Mike Henry. I know I just brought him up. Now add Gina Carano to that list. The cancellation of Apu has all been from the Walt Disney Corporation. If you've been following along. Now, I'm not saying that they're the only company that has done it, but they've been the one doing the most of it ever since this whole cancel culture crap began a couple of years ago. And here's the biggest reason why I wanted to save recording this episode until today, because this just came out from Deadline just yesterday on March 9th. Disney CEO Bob Chapek, asked about Gina Carano firing, says he doesn't see company as quote left-leaning or right-leaning. Let's actually get into this. And I'm going to read I'm going to try and I'm going to read the entire article. Yeah, cuz it's not very long. It's only a few paragraphs. So Disney CEO Bob Chapek Tuesday said he doesn't quote really see Disney as characterizing itself as left-leaning or right-leaning, end quote. And again, for all of you guys that are questioning this is coming from an actual trade. This is coming from Deadline. Responding to a shareholder who accused Hollywood and the company of a double standard and firing Gina Carano from The Mandalorian because she's a conservative. The stockholder, speaking during the Q&A portion of Disney's annual shareholder meeting, notes that co-stars Pedro Pascal and Gina Carano both controversially referenced Nazi Germany in social media comments, but only she was removed. What about the Disney blacklist? He asked. Let's see. Does that actually lead to the actual post, or does it not? No, it doesn't. But yeah, if people remember back in 2018, let's see if I can find it really quickly. Pedro Pascal, Nazi Germany. Let's see if we can find it. Might be under here. Hold on. Okay, here it is right here. Can I blow that up any bigger? It doesn't look like I can. Okay, here we go. Going right on out to fucking Twitter, of all fucking places. But yeah, okay, this was the post that they're referring to right here from Pedro Pascal. You know, hashtag This Is America. You know, basically, you know, doing like the same kind of thing, comparing the Holocaust to, you know, to America of, you know, quote unquote current year from, you know, from 2018. Yet, funny enough, Pedro Pascal was not fired for, you know, for this. But let's, you know, go ahead and get back to the article here. Where was I? Okay, here we are. Chapek didn't speak to the Carano incident directly, so he answered it like a fucking politician. You know, it's like he danced around the fucking question. You know, Chapek didn't speak to the Carano incident directly, but said Disney stands, quote, for values that are universal: respect, decency, integrity, and inclusion, and we seek to have the content that we make reflective of the rich diversity of the world we live in. And I think it's a world we should all live in harmony and peace. Was it very respectful to publicly fire somebody? And not only that, if we look over here, apparently Gina Carano didn't know she had been fired until seeing the news on social media. So she found out when all of us found out on February 10th. And here's the quote from here. I think they pulled this from an interview that she did. Social media, blah, blah, blah. Disney, Lucasfilm. Okay, Carano has since revealed to Barry Weiss that she didn't know Disney and Lucasfilm and made the decision to let her go until she read about it on social media like the rest of us. Quote, I found out through social media, like everyone else, that I had been fired, Carano explained. The actress added the revelation onto the end of a discussion about the last time her comments landed her in hot water. You know, blah, blah, blah. So... okay, was it very respectful to publicly fire one of your actors? And wait, what was your official statement right here? Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future, a Lucasfilm spokesperson said in a statement. Not a Lucasfilm executive, not a Disney executive. A Lucasfilm spokesperson said in a statement. And I brought this up in my prior TMRP regarding Gina Carano. All this means is it's some dumbass that works in the fucking PR department. That is it. Quote, nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. End quote. And that is the only thing that we have so far, other than Bob Chapek coming in and basically dancing around the question like a fucking politician. But, you know, let's go into here. The actress was let go from the popular Lucasfilm and Disney series on Disney Plus after she took to social media to, as Lucasfilm described it, post abhorrent material that compared the current divided political climate in the US to Nazi Germany. Again, we just showed Pedro Pascal did the same fucking thing, yet he was not fired for it. This caused hashtag fire Gina Carano to trend, and eventually she was, so they caved to fucking Twitter. That's all this was over right here. They just caved to fucking Twitter. Carano last month raised the issue of a double standard in an interview with conservative commentator Ben Shapiro. Again, I have my own issues with Ben Shapiro, but whatever. I think Ben Shapiro is just as intellectually dishonest as the side that he criticizes. Noting that Pascal was not fired for a 2018 tweet comparing undocumented children in cages in the U.S. to Jews in concentration camps. Asked about Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy, Chapek said he is, quote, absolutely thrilled with her and the company looks forward to, quote, looks forward, quote, to having Kathy directing the activities of the entire Lucasfilm operation for many years to come. Let's see, under this woman, more directors have been fired than have actually completed Star Wars movies. And let's go down the list of people that were fired. The first notable to be fired was Josh Trank from the Boba Fett movie. That had since gotten, it did get canned and now it's a Disney Plus series, but that doesn't matter. He was the first director to get fired. And people don't remember this, but Rogue One, when they went through reshoots, they did not bring back Gareth Edwards. They brought in Tony Gilroy to reshoot that, to handle all the reshoots. Then you had the public firing of Phil Lord and Chris Miller from Solo with only 2 weeks left in principal photography. They basically were done with shooting the movie, and she fired him that late into it, causing Ron Howard to go back and reshoot 90% of the movie. So Disney basically paid for 2 movies with Solo, and then the more recent one was Colin Trevorrow being shown the door from episode 9. So let's see, we have Josh Trank, that's 1. Gareth Edwards is 2. Lord and Miller make 4 because they're 2 combined, and Colin Trevorrow makes 5. Who are the only directors that have actually seen a Star Wars movie from start of production, from the pre-production stage all the way to theatrical release? J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, and that was it. Otherwise, everyone else that she has hired has been fired. So basically, it's just because you work as an executive producer for 30 years doesn't mean that you know how to run a fucking studio. And the point I'm trying to lay home is this with this, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to end it right here, is that, for Disney, the, firing of Gina Carano has basically been that bad rash that has not gone away. And it really is that bad rash for them for one simple reason. People behind the scenes refuse to fucking comment. Kathy Kennedy, Bob Chapek. Now we're seeing Bob Chapek straight up refuse to directly comment on it. Chapek didn't speak to the Carano incident directly. This is the time to do it. Disney not speaking on her public firing has been way worse than the initial firing herself. The initial firing itself, sorry, I tripped over my own words there. But, basically, what I can see this leading to is basically, less and less people are going to be willing to work with Disney at this point. And any talent that is currently signed, it would not surprise me if they are currently reading their contracts line by line with their attorneys, looking for any legal way to get out of it. Just because, do you want to work for a company that is going to basically, publicly fire you if you shitpost on social media, or they dig shit up from 10 plus years ago and not tell you that you've been fired until they announce it on social media, and that's how you find out that you're fired. So let me ask you, to any of you that's listening, where is it that they said it? Stands for values that are universal: respect, decency, integrity, and inclusion. Was publicly firing Gina Carano a sign of respect? Was it even a show of decency to publicly fire her and not tell her until she read about it? Is there any integrity to what you did? In fact, I would argue the executives completely disrespected her by publicly firing her and not telling her. It was a very indecent firing, because you should not be making these firings as public as you made them, and Disney showed their real lack of this as a result. And this right here, integrity, once that's gone, it doesn't matter if you lean to the right politically or you're a fucking, you're as left as they come. At some point, people are going to stop agreeing to work with you. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to end it right here, guys, because I think I've gone on for as long as I need to. I have gone on for almost half an hour, and this is going to do it for this week's episode of TMRP, the Metropolis Radio Podcast, and I am terrible at signing off on these, so I guess I'll just see you guys next time.